So in this video, we're going to show you how to make a correlogram, a graph of the correlations for several numerical variables. So in this data set, I have, I think, 11 or 13 numerical variables. They all describe, these are all properties of different wines. There's only one categorical variable in this data set. All the rest are all numbers. And so this is a really good data set for making a correlogram. Now, essentially what the correlogram does is it creates a table of correlations, and then the correlogram part of it is actually going to plot those so that we can see them visually. And it's a little easier for us to process visual data than numerical data, raw numerical data. So if you go to graph, you can create this from the correlogram plot directly. And so we're going to go there. You'll notice that it has left out the one categorical variable because this is a correlation calculation first. And so you have to have numerical variables to do a calculation. Now, I would caution you, if you have data that is categorized categorical variables as dummy variables, as numbers, you should be cautious about using a correlogram, even though it will calculate the correlation for those categories. If they are not, if they're sort of ordinal variables, but the underlying data is not really ordinal, then you could create some problems in terms of interpreting your correlations. So probably if you had something like that, you would want to leave it out unless you were sure that this was exactly the way that you were going to try to include it in a regression problem. Now, I really would like to just look at all of them. And so I'm just going to select all of my variables. Now, if you don't want all of your variables in there, obviously you don't have to select them all. I'm going to use the automatic gradient type, although you can choose other kinds if you want. And then feel free to experiment with them. I'm going to also select display correlation values, because what it's going to do is then it's going to not only color code the values, but it's going to tell me what those exact correlations are so that I can have both the quantitative aspect of it, but also sort of visually look at the whole thing. And then I'm going to hit OK. And so what it creates, again, is this table. It has the variables here and the other variables here. And so what you can do is you can see how each pair of variables correlates to each other pair. And if you look at the legend here, it's going to tell you if you have a very dark blue, that is a very high negative correlation. If you have a dark red, that's a very high positive correlation. And so some of the things that we can see here is that the pair of variables with the highest correlation between them are the flavonoids in this case, and it looks like the total phenols. That has a 0.86 correlation. Now, if you were trying to create a regression equation on just a single variable, then that might be really useful. You could use the flavonoids or the total phenols to predict each other. But if you were doing a multiple variable analysis, this could be potentially problematic because it could indicate collinearity, and you might have to remove one of the variables from your multiple regression analysis. So this can tell you a lot about the individual variables. And again, you can visualize the blue ones are the ones that are sort of negative correlations. The pink or red ones are the ones with the positive correlations. And the ones that are really white are the ones that have no correlation at all between them, or nearly none. So you can see there are a few here that are 0 or nearly 0.